A very good morning to everyone. I am Najam Latif, founder of the first Cricket Museum of Pakistan at Lahore, Gymkhana. Today we have a very special guest, the eminent writer of cricket, of politics, Mr. Peter Oborne from England. And he's very graciously given us time to talk about Pakistan cricket and, of course, his renowned publication, Wounded Tiger, The History of Pakistan Cricket. Good morning, Peter, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Najam.
May I ask how and when did you get the idea of writing this your renowned book, Wounded Tiger, The History of Pakistan Cricket?
Yes, I traveled to Pakistan a lot in the very difficult years, traumatic years during the War on Terror, George Bush's War on Terror, and reporting from the tribal areas and from the Punjab and Karachi and Lahore, the political stories, the stories about the state terrorism committed by the Americans, you know, the drones and all of that. But everywhere I went, I saw cricket matches. And I fell in love with the country of Pakistan. But what I looked at a way of telling a story of what it was like and what it stood for and its values. And there are endless books written by earnest American foreign correspondents about sort of the war on terror. But actually, I could see a way of telling the very rich story of Pakistan through cricket. And actually, at that point, there wasn't a full history done. There's some lovely books written, but and so I had conceived the idea of writing a history of cricket in Pakistan, and it gave me lots of excuses to come to your beautiful country. So I came back and back and back, talking to all the famous cricketers and you were a great guide, as far as I was concerned, to the early heroes, Fazal Mahmood, A.H. Khadar, and so on. Hanif Muhammad.
Well, that's great, but what gave you the idea to call it the Wounded Tiger?
Well, of course, there was the famous 1992 World Cup victory where all was lost. Pakistan was out of the tournament, all but. And Imran Khan, the captain, gave this famous Cornered Tigers speech. And so it was a good metaphor for Pakistan because, you know, Pakistan cricket, and for Pakistan itself, which is that it's wounded, it's suffering, it's down and out sometimes, but it's got this huge dynamism and excitement about it, Pakistan. And so I felt that Wounded Tiger was a way of expressing both the troubles, but also the tiger is magnificent.
I think this was a very appropriate name because if you look at the history of Pakistan, it is completely in the same way, you know, how Pakistan came into being like a wounded state.
Yes, that is right.
And
from the beginning.
Exactly, this is how most of our things have been happening in the history of 75 years of this country. So I definitely appreciate your choice of a very good name for this book. And then later on, you were very kind to think about translating this book in Urdu, calling it Wicket Se Wicket Tak. And you selected me to translate the book. And I thank you for your confidence in me because I had not translated a book before that. But it turned out to be, I'm told it's a good translation.
Everybody who's read it says it's outstanding translation. I can't read Urdu myself, I'm ashamed to say, but you did a great job.
Thank you very much. And so what now we are looking at is that this book needs to be actually the kind of history you have covered in it is not just cricket. It has the social history of Pakistan, it has the political history of Pakistan, and it has all kinds of cricket anecdotes in it. This is the greatest book that you could ever write, or it has ever been written. So what I suggest is that such a book should be given to the universities, to the schools, to the Pakistan Cricket Board. They should promote it so that this history should be in every child's hand, that people should get to know what cricket is, what history is, what this country is all about.
Yeah, I think that would be a wonderful... In fact, that is why I asked you to translate it, really. I felt that it's one thing writing a book in English, largely read either by the Pakistan English-speaking elite or by in countries like England or Australia, etc. But actually, the people I wrote it for was the ordinary people in Pakistan, who I saw playing cricket in the gullies and in the streets and in the markets. You know,
absolutely.
And to try and reach out to them is what I did. So I would love that to happen.
Now, after this book, you brought out another book with Richard Heller,
Yes.
which is called White on Green, the volume companion of this book. And so now that we are translating it, so I suggest that when MCC is going to travel to Pakistan in October, I would very much request you that if you could come over at that time. By that time the second book would also be translated. And I think for a promotion purpose, your presence will very much be appreciated.
Well, I'll do my best. I would love to come over. I don't need a big excuse for coming to Pakistan. And I'm looking forward to this 3-test series. So maybe I will come over for one of the test matches, and maybe we could use that to talk more widely about the great themes, because there are great themes, I mean, of Pakistan cricket, right from the beginning, when the early players were with the Muslim League. They were part of the independence movement. Fazal Mahmood, you know, he stood guard for Jinnah in Government College for Islamia College, excuse me, when he used to go there. And they were all part of that self-conscious imposition, creation of Pakistan as an independent state.
Well, of course, when you began the opening chapter of Wounded Tiger, it starts with Fazal Mahmood standing at the Oval, looking at that balcony, and where he saw Sir Len Hatton waving away, and he was imagining that one day he would be there, and very next year, he was there.
It was a vision.
Yes,
Fazal,
it was a vision.
It was a prophetic moment, because Pakistan arrives in England completely the underdog, playing the greatest team in the world, which is what England was then. And for Fazal Mahmood, to bowl Pakistan to that magnificent, unforgettable victory was a big moment. It was one. And then there've been again and again. There's been the doldrums of the 60s, when everything went to sleep under Ayub Khan, and including the cricket. And then you had the resurrection in the 70s, and then you had the Pakistan emerges in the 80s and 90s as one of the great teams in the world, and which it remains to this day. It's going for a mixed period at the moment, but fundamentally the energy, the excitement, the genius is there.
Well, actually, you know, right from the beginning, there were two great builders of cricket in Pakistan. To begin with was Kardar and Fazal, but the later on period that cricket became well known was because of Imran Khan and the cup that he won for Pakistan.
Yes.
And from there on, Pakistan never looked back. The Pakistani team could have been an unpredictable team, but it's always capable of performing miracles, like Fazal Mahmood did in the initial stages of cricket. And then, of course, later on, people like Wasim Akram and Zamam ul Haq, Javed Miandad. I mean, it's an endless list.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And your current team, you know, is amazing too.
It is. Yeah. But the amazing thing also is that most of the cricket players now that we see in the Pakistan cricket team are from the northern areas.
Yes, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, who are the Karachi players? You know, because Karachi and Lahore generated that was the balance, wasn't it? There was nothing from the northern areas in the early years.
No.
And Karachi was this, Miandad, probably the greatest of them, but Zahir, Lahore, and the struggle between the two. They weren't always very fond of each other, were they? Perhaps.
Yes, there was a rivalry.
Yes, and so.
Yeah. But I would also like to mention my great friend Saeed Ahmed, who has just passed away.
Yes, I know.
He was one of the you see, in the first era of Pakistan cricket, the first decade was Hanif Mohammed. I mean, there were two players who carried the team, Hanif Mohammed and Fazal Mahmood. And the next entry that came in the next decade was Saeed Ahmed. And Saeed Ahmed played brilliantly, and his cover drive, as you know, was absolutely something to really look forward to.
He carried the flame.
He did.
After Qadar, Fazal. He was the only world-class batsman. He and Hanif.
And Hanif, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's very sad that he's passed away.
But I'm so glad you were able to meet him, interview him.
Thanks to you. By then he, of course, had become a cleric and he moved on to more momentous things, more eternal things than cricket.
Peter, you have deeply studied Pakistani cricket. Have you ever given it a thought that why the constitution of Pakistan cricket was not immediately formed? I'm told that Justice Cornelius had written a constitution in the beginning, but then what became of it? Did you ever try to find out?
It's a very deep and profound question, because if you read the contemporary sources, in newspaper references and so on, it's always they talk about a constitution as if it exists. And so when I started writing the book, I wanted to find the constitution of the PCB. Unfortunately, the archive was useless. There was not that. And it's an interesting parallel with the Pakistan constitution, because that got lost early on too, when it was abrogated. And so I tried to find the constitution, which had been drafted by one of the great figures of early Pakistan cricket, Justice Cornelius, who was a very learned senior judge, constitutional lawyer, and I couldn't find it. And he, of course, was heavily involved also in the debates about the Pakistan constitution. And I always think that the early Pakistan cricket, it expressed very precisely and exactly what Jinnah's vision, Quaid-e-Azam's vision for Pakistan was, which was an eclectic vision. You're welcome to go to it's an Islamic state, but you're welcome to go to your temples, your churches, your mosques, and this very generous idea, and that was also there in the early Pakistan cricket, when the Parsis, there were Muslims, Christians. It was a very lovely idea. So and I think cricket has always presented to the world the original vision of the Quaid-e-Azam. And that's one of the very important things about cricket in this country, that it symbolizes this very generous national identity which came into existence in 1947.
But what is amazing about Pakistan cricket is that it has definitely made great progress over the years, but it has never had a proper structure. Because there is, you see, like, for example, the head of, like a president of the Cricket Control Board, or the chairman as we call them now, they are usually political appointees. Whereas in the rest of the world, all such appointments come through the associations and through elections. And I think there's a democracy is also required, not only in the country.
Well, you're not quite right there. Most unusually for you, Mr. Latif, you are wrong on the matter. If you look at India at the moment, cricket has been captured by the BJP.
That's so true.
And it has been instrumentalized and weaponized by Narendra Modi. And the same in Sri Lanka, the same thing is going on. And so it's actually much more political in other countries. Whereas in Pakistan, actually, it is certainly true that it's often the gift of the government, but you have had some remarkably independent, formidable chairman or women, no chairman, we probably haven't had a woman yet, of the Pakistan Cricket Board or the BCCP, which preceded it, Qadar.
Kardar was a great cricket chairman, no doubt about that.
And he was formidable and he was independent, and he upset Bhutto, who was at that time.
Absolutely, he did, yes.
And
Shahryar Khan was another good example.
Shahryar Khan is a classic case. You point to him, who did so much, who's recently died, and we really mourn Shahryar Khan.
Yeah.
A great man, and he had been foreign minister of Pakistan, as you know, and he did fantastic work when he was at the PCB, trying to rebuild relations with India, getting the tours back on course. This great contest, which is always being cut off, and I spent a lot of time talking to Shahryar about this, and it was India which would not allow it to happen.
That's true.
The example of how Pakistan is often maligned by the rest of the world. You were the ones who were stretching out, but India was just saying no. And Asamani is another standing case in point of a superlatively talented.
Indeed.
Now, you've had the odd rotten apple, I might say, but generally speaking, there's been, the PCB, I'm not going to be too rude about it.
I think you're absolutely quite right,
Yeah.
Yeah. But now what future do you see of Pakistan cricket?
I think that you're cut off a bit now because of the hostility of India. And India now more and more financially dominates world cricket. And your southern neighbour is, I'm afraid, abusing its power and its financial muscle. It's behaving quite disgracefully in refusing to engage with Pakistan on the cricket field. And what the history of, one of the things I tell in my books about Pakistan cricket, how often cricket has smoothed politics. Again and again, right from the very early tour, the first tour which India made to Pakistan, and the Pakistanis opened the borders and the people flooded back from Amritsar to Lahore. It's very moving.
It is.
And then, of course, much later on with the cricket diplomacy navigated by another wonderful man, Humayun Khan, the very senior diplomat who enabled, under Zia, it's all got moving again. Shahryar Khan in 2004, when the Indians crossed the border after a period of hostility, and so India is the blockage at the moment, and it's very bad, and it's a disgrace.
It is indeed, because Pakistan is trying to reach out to them all the time.
Yeah.
And their response is very negative all along.
So that is a problem. On the other hand, I think that you are one of the last remaining bastions of true cricket, test match cricket, which is England, Australia, India. To be fair to India, it does take it still very seriously. But Pakistan, you've got this wonderful team, and by the way, England owes a huge debt to Pakistan for during COVID and doing that quite sacrificially, at risk of risk to your health, your players, coming and giving us a test series 3 years ago. So you're an amazingly positive force. There's going to be this tour which England is coming about. That's going to be fantastic. But there's other aspects I would like to talk about, which is I think that Pakistan is in the process, as so often, of reinventing cricket altogether. And the tape ball cricket, which is played, which is the bulk of the cricket now, and people tend not to know, or not to want to know, by the ordinary people who can't afford a red ball and a cricket bat.
Quite right.
Or as expensive a pitch. You can go and watch these phenomenal games. And many of the test match players emerge from there. And so you are creating, you are a very inventive and brilliant country. And you are in the process of creating a new form of cricket, which I predict one day will probably take over from red ball cricket across the world.
It looks that way. That's a great prediction you're making.
And you also do amazing things technically. Keep on producing geniuses who reinvent new aspects of the game. I mean, the two reverse swing.
Yes.
That was your invention. It was like you're like the Einsteins of cricket, you see, and the return of leg spin bowling after a long period of abeyance with my
Abdul Qadir, your friend.
I was privileged to know that great man who reinvented the art of leg spin, and without him there would have been no Warne. And so that was a wonderful story, and there's always another story coming along.
But I also must commend you for your contribution to Pakistan cricket after the Sri Lankan affair, when nobody was coming to Pakistan and Pakistan was completely lost to cricket and we were in wilderness. You brought the Wounded Tiger 11 cricket teams 3 to 4 times. In those very uncertain times, you traveled to the South Waziristan, you took a team there and gave the world a very, very good, positive picture of Pakistan. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, well, that was such an exciting thing to do. We were the first team, foreign team, to come after the atrocity, after the terrible atrocity. And we were so warmly received, and just to travel around Pakistan playing cricket in all these glorious places. And as you say, it was a lovely way to re-engage, be a little bit of a pathfinder, I think.
I think it was a moment that you brought back cricket into Pakistan. It's a great contribution.
Well, many other people did that too, but we played our small role. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Peter, for being here today. And it's been a wonderful conversation with you. And I'm sure everybody will really appreciate your views on Pakistan cricket and the future of Pakistan cricket. Thank you very much.
It's such a pleasure to talk to you about my favorite subject.
Indeed.